Okay, good day. So for this recorded session, I will be discussing about Java constructors and encapsulation. Okay, to start, Java constructors, this is the initial value of the object when the object is being created. So whenever we're going to use the keyword new, a new object is created. And what is the initial value of that object? That is defined when in the constructor part. Okay, so this is an example of a constructor. So a non-parameterized constructor. So as what you notice, the name of the constructor is the same with the name of the class. And then a constructor looks like a method because it has open and close parentheses also. It has open and close parentheses also. And just like a method, a constructor could be parameterized or non-parameterized. But a constructor does not return a value. And then in the body of the constructor, what you are going to put is only the initial value of the constructor, or you will just set the initial value of the constructor. So like a method that you can set formula for calculations, for output statement, and returning a value, you do not do that in a constructor. So, ang trabaho lang talaga niya is to set kung ano yung magiging initial value ng object. So, another example here, this is the constructor. Madali lang tingnan kung constructor ba siya or method ba siya. If you're going to look at its name, if its name is the same with the class name, then that is a constructor. So this is a parameterized constructor which has the type integer y. Okay, so ito we have x is equal to y. So you see a constructor is just used to initialize the value of your object. So it's just assigning y to the variable x. So when the object is being created, so main my object is equal to new main 5. So 5 is the initial value of the object my object. So system that out of print line my object that x is equal to 5. So kung ano yung i-assign na value when the object is created, that's the initial value of a constructor. Actually, you can appreciate much a constructor if you are going to create a graphical user interface program. Kasi kung ano yung unang i-load ni GUI program, kung ano yung initial interface, initial value ng program mo, doon mo yan siya i-define sa constructor. Okay? So, there are rules to in creating a constructor. Constructor name must be the same as its class name, as what I mentioned a while ago. And constructor must have no explicit return type. Okay? So, you do not write return inside the body of a constructor because it is not a method. It is simply used to give initial value to your object. So a Java constructor cannot be abstract, cannot be static, final, and synchronized. But it could be public, it could be private, it could be protected. Okay. So there are two types of constructors in Java. So kagaya ng nakita nyo kanina, non-parameterized and parameterized, or what we call the default constructor or the no argument constructor. So default constructor, when in your class you do not provide a constructor body. Okay, so a default constructor is a constructor that has no argument also. Now this is an example of a non-parameterized constructor. Okay, so the name of the class is bike1, the name of the constructor is bike1 also. So this is an example of a default constructor. So you may not put a body, or if you are going to put a body, there is no parameter inside the open and close parenthesis of the constructor. So that one is considered as a default constructor or a non-parameterized constructor. And so, since it is non-parameterized, magiging ganito siya when you're going to create an object. So, kung ano ba yung magiging value ng object if it is a default constructor? So, the answer is it depends on its type. So, kung integer siya, initial value niya is 0. Kung boolean naman, initial value is false. And so, just look at the type. And then here, the default value. Okay, second, it could be that you are going to create a parameterized constructor or a constructor that has a specific number inside the open and close parentheses. So this is an example of a parameterized constructor. So you see the name of the constructor is the same with the class, and it has a parameter inside which is a string and lang as the variable. So language, this is the attribute of the class, and then lang, this is the attribute. So ang ginawa dito class is to initialize only the attribute. Okay? So kung ano yung magiging initial value na, depende yan when you created the object. So ito, there are 3 objects: main, object 1, new main, Java. Yung si object 2 naman, si Python. Si object 3 naman is si main. So you can compare this, or this is similar actually to what we created when we are going to instantiate yung sa mga JText field. JText field TF. So TF is the name of the object. New J-label na lang. Mas maganda kung J-label. Kung si JText field yan, new JText field 20. So, initial value niya is 20. So, JL new J-label. So, ito si J-label, yung constructor niya, may parameter na string. Example for Jenny. First name. Okay? So, this is creating a new object called JL, which has the initial value Jenny. So, meaning to say, sa body nito, ng class na ito, si J-label, so, meron siyang constructor na yung type ng parameter is string. And of course, we do not know what's the body of J-label, no? Because naka-encapsulation to siya. So, we actually do not know how it is being created, but we know how to use it. Okay? Now, constructors, just like methods, it could also be overloaded. Okay? So, meaning, you can create a constructor having the same name but of different parameters. So, here in the example, you can see si main, tsaka si main na non-parameterized, tsaka si main na with a parameter, single parameter. Or pwede rin si main more than 1 parameter, or si main na may mga 3 parameters with integer tsaka string, depende. Okay, so this one, this simply assigns to the attribute of the class language with the parameter of main constructor with constructor which is language also. So yan, you always put it in your mind pag sinabing constructor, its very job is just to assign a value or initial value to your object. And therefore, ganito dapat yung body niya. Okay? So, ayan, kung i-create siya, ganyan. Main object 2 is equal to new main Python. Kasi, string yung data type ni constructor. So, depende kung ano yung tatawagin niya na constructor, kung parameterized ba or non-parameterized. Dito, the first one, yung tinawag is the non-parameterized. Ito siya. So, I know you understand that one already. Because, meron na to sa computer programming too. And speaking of, it might be your question, ano yung this dyan sa this dot language? So the this keyword refers to the current object in a method or constructor. So the most common use of the this keyword is to eliminate the confusion between the class attributes and parameters with the same name. So kasi dito, si language na class attribute is having the same name with the language na parameter ni constructor. So to avoid which is the attribute and which is the parameter of the constructor, this keyword is used. So kung this.language, ang gi-refer niya dyan is the attribute. So itong walang this, ang gi-refer niya dyan is the parameter in the main method. Okay? So that is the use of the this keyword. So it is used to refer to the current object in a method or constructor. Okay? So I hope with this, you know how to create methods, you know how to create constructors, and you know how to create objects with a constructor with a parameter, a constructor without a parameter, and overload constructors also. So next topic is about encapsulation. So encapsulation, this is one of the 4 OOP concepts. So encapsulation is a mechanism of wrapping the data or the variables and code acting on the data or the method together as a single unit. So encapsulation, the variables of a class will be hidden from other classes, and these variables can only be accessed through the methods of their current class. So therefore, it's also known as the data hiding. So to achieve encapsulation, you have to declare your variables as private, so that kasi yung purpose ni encapsulation is to hide variables of the class. So its variables should be in private. So provide public setter and getter methods to modify and view the variables values. So kung mag-set ka ng value ng variable mo, you use setter. Like set name, set age, just like this one. No, gagawa ka ng method na setter. So this is also what we call writing set, or you initialize. So si age, this is an attribute. Si new age, this is a parameter of set age. So, kasi si age na attribute, private siya. So, it couldn't be accessed by other classes. So, because of that, you need a setter to assign the value of the attribute age. Okay, so provide a public setter and provide a public getter. So, si getter naman, yung trabaho niya is to return the value that is assigned by setter. So, si setter, it writes, si getter, it reads kung ano yung value na ka-assign. So, partner yan silang dalawa. So, si get age, it returns the age na giset dito sa set age. So, partner yan siya. Si get name naman, it returns kung ano yung value na naka-assign dito kay set name. So, with set ID. So, setter and getter. So, that is how you are going to achieve encapsulation. That is how you are going to achieve data hiding. So again, kagaya nung si JText field, si JLabel, actually we do not know how the JText field is being created, how the JLabel is being created, how the JTable, how are those methods are being created. Because there are many predefined methods in Java. So we do not know how they are created, but we know how to use them. Okay? So, yan yung trabaho ni encapsulation. We don't know how they were built, but we know how to use them. Okay? So, that is achieved using encapsulation. So, the public set XXX, because we do not know what we set, and get XXX, are the access points of the instance variables of encaptest class. So, ito si encaptest class. So, ito pala si encaptest class. Okay? So, normally the methods are referred as getters and setters. Therefore, any class that wants to access the variable should access them through the setters and getters. So, kung ano yung mga variables na yon, eto sila, no? Private sila. Okay? So, they could not be directly accessed. So, kung i-access sila, it must pass through the setter and then the getter. Okay? So, that is encapsulation. So, to access, so encap test, encap, so this is now the name of the object, new encap test. So, encap.setName, so this is now setting the value of the attribute name using the setName method or the setter, and then this value of age attribute is set using the setter method, which is set age, so with set ID. And so when you're going to display this value, ito si James, si 20, saka 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, we need to use the getter. So, encap.getName. So, ito yung magiging output, si James. Plus age, encap.getAge, si 20. So, accessing them becomes possible because of the getter. So, we do not know now how this getAge, what's the body of this getAge, but we can access them because we know how to use them. Okay? So, the benefits of encapsulation is the fields of a class can be made read-only or write-only. Okay, read-only the getter and write-only the setter. So, a class can have a total control over what is stored in its fields. So, that is about encapsulation. Okay? So, I hope in the succeeding program that you will be creating, you will be using this concept of encapsulation. So, I should see setter and getter in your program. So, to sum up in this week 7, we have topics about constructors, which is used to initialize an object. And constructor has a name the same with a class name. It looks like a method, but it doesn't return a value. And then in the body of the constructor, what you're going to write is assigning a value to the attributes of the class. And there are two types of constructors: the default constructor or the non-parameterized constructor, and then the parameterized constructor. So default constructor, if you do not specify a body of your constructor, and then its default value will depend on the data type. So this is the list of the data type. And then for the second type of constructor, it's parameterized. So you're going to put parameters in the open and close parentheses in the constructor. Okay. And then you can also overload constructor just like how you overload a method. Okay. So many constructors having different parameters and different types. And this keyword is used to refer to the attribute of the class to avoid confusion between the parameter of the constructor or a method that has a name the same with the attribute of the class. Okay, so para mawala ang confusion na yan, that this keyword is used. Pagka may this, ang refer na is the attribute of the class. Okay, and then second one, encapsulation or the data hiding. It can be achieved through declaring the variables of the class as private, and then you need to provide the setter and the getter, setter as the write and getter as the read. So you assign value to your setter of your attributes, and then you read the values of the attributes through the getter. And so if you are going to access it, you need to pass through the getter. Okay, so setting the value of the attributes, and this is accessing the value of the attributes. Okay, so I hope you have learned from this session about constructor and encapsulation. By the way, you see that there's an error prompt by Mac. Actually, that's the reason why I wasn't able to record immediately week 6, because I have some problems with my unit. So I think my malware siya. Okay, so I need to fix this one. So I'll just be posting Monday afternoon after my consultation sa aking doctor sa APE ko. I will post let's check, and please do not forget to work with deliverable 2. I have posted already in week 7 section in the LMS deliverable number 2, which is just a revision of deliverable 1, and then the class diagram, and then the prototype. And good news, class, I will now allow you to use drag and drop component in your project, provided that I still could see nga kayo yung gumawa ng sarili nyong class nga na may inheritance, may encapsulation, may polymorphism. Okay? It should not be purely drag and drop na wala na lang kayong ginawang own inheritance or own class na mayroong inheritance. Kasi iba pa rin yung hindi lang tayo nag-drag and drop. We understand the concept. We can showcase that we understand the concept if we do not know drag and drop. Okay, so that will be all, and else I could not see you on Wednesday because we have cluster meeting. That's why I recorded our session. I'll see you on Thursday. Okay, thank you very much.